Way. So I'm really proud to present to you this session, this panel today. We've got real well-known names in the industry of GBS. Some of them are avid users of Celonis. So I'd first like to ask everybody to introduce themselves, and then we'll get on cracking.
Yeah, thanks. I'm Lars Hölzer. I'm heading the GBS and also the IT business service and digital at Fresenius Kabi since 2 years. And we are, of course, exploring all that fancy technology that we have around our ERP systems. And yeah, happy to be here.
Sergio Oliveira. I'm the head of operational excellence and automation for GBS and Philips. So have been for quite a long time in Philips, had experience in the market, and now in the GBS industry, so it has been quite an exciting journey. Looking forward to share some learnings.
Hello, happy to be here. Eligiusz Pach, Head of Process Managers, Procure to Pay from Lufthansa Group Business Services. So dealing mainly with finance processes, but as well with process mining, and would like to share some experience with you. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. David Böhm, out of the Czech Republic, from the city small north of the Prague, actually, which you may know, the city called Liberec. So one of the regional centers, you know, smaller one, 300 people working for Knorr-Bremse, one of those Mittelstand German companies. Good afternoon.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Now, before we start, at the end of the session, at the end of the panel, I will ask the audience for further questions, and I will point anyone. So you better get thinking about questions you can ask, so you get well prepared. So before we get on cracking, first a small introduction about Celonis. A lot of you have heard about it already. We're taking on a whole new era of AI. We're doing that for our productivity. We're doing that for better insights, and we're doing that for much more modern workflow. Now, who has toyed around with ChatGPT, AI, and all the available tools? Hands up, please. Yeah, there you go. So how easy was it to say, can you write me an invitation to a birthday party for my 9-year-old? Super easy. It will do that. Why on earth doesn't that yet exist for what is my payment on time rate? What is my performance? What is my best performing locations? So why can't you just have a proper conversation with your process? That's now about to change. So what's my current state? What's my current performance? What's my best in class? Those are things that are all coming around, and in some cases are actually already available to you if you work with us. So how we're putting that in place? We're doing that through Process Copilot, basically your conversational partner, Celonis, as a chatbot. You can ask it questions, proper human being questions rather than being technical. AI-powered apps, so checkers, duplicate checkers, whatever, all those areas will be powered by artificial intelligence capabilities. On top of that, we'll support your technical staff in their processing and programming and development. So you can ask a question, and the Copilot will recognize you've asked that question before. So why don't I just create a dashboard for the next time? So you've got it. You don't need to ask a question. That's all coming around the corner soon to an office near you. So we'll get on cracking for all the questions. So to the audience, and Eligiusz and David, you're the first ones. How is AI redefining process intelligence and our approach to achieving performance objectives?
Sure, thank you for this question, Diederick. So I would see still 2 dimensions of this topic. So I would like to start with the first more traditional approach to artificial intelligence linked with machine learning. And we have such solutions available as well in the process mining environment. I talk here about concrete example of duplicate checker, when we can catch and recover our duplicate payments. But the best would be, of course, to predict them before and to prevent any cash out. So this is one example of the machine learning used in real life. Another example, still on this traditional artificial intelligence, I would link with the prototype opportunity. If you would like to make deep learning in the Python workbench and really analyze the deviations in your process. And if you analyze the deviation in your transactions, then you can catch as well possible fraudulent behavior or possible fraud attempts. So that's all about traditional approach to the artificial intelligence. And now let's make a move forward and think about what we can do on top of it. Talking about process mining, we talk about data models. Yeah, I hope that you are also dealing with the process mining already, and you know that you need to create a data model for your process, build certain KPIs, certain attributes, and then analyze the logs of your process. And having such data model built in the right way, with validated data, with the right KPIs in place, with validated results, you have already quite a good basis for your use cases. And now, let's imagine that we put on top of this well-running data model, large language model, so the type of the artificial intelligence. And what would be the benefit? Of course, the benefit would be that we don't need to search around for our data engineers or data analysts to build a new dashboard for us, to build a new data connection for us. But the business user can really use this natural language model or make a standard prompt to the system and get the answer about how the process is running, what are the root causes of late payments, for example, and what are even the actions, how we can go ahead and how we can improve our process. So that's the new dimension that is brought with the artificial intelligence put on top of the structured data in process mining. And I would say the structured data in process mining, this data model, is the foundation that we should already have with current use cases that we can really benefit while moving further to the next case. And just to wrap up, how to get closer to this technology, this is actually my favorite topic. So I really like to be involved in the co-innovation projects, and I was part of the few co-innovations already. And this is really great experience that you can influence how the final product will look like, what are your requirements for the product, and to get early access to the new technology.
Great, thank you. And David?
Let me back up on what Eligiusz just mentioned, right? And the journey of Knorr-Bremse with the Celonis, So we had a kind of the innovation of CIO 7 years ago, and then he just bought the Celonis licenses, but those licenses have been sitting on the shelf for a while, actually, until we implemented the most crucial which was for us, and that was actually to find the right talent, actually, how to leverage Celonis capabilities, right? And then over the course of the last 2 years, just to back up what has been just mentioned, on the duplicate checker, we have been able to identify 2 million suspects for the duplicate checks, which of them, 600,000 euro for the Mittelstand companies have been proved to be collected back from the vendors. So that's one of the key benefits. And why I'm mentioning that, because it's really crucial to identify the quick use cases, how to demonstrate the value for the tool, how then can be brought throughout the organization forward. We really actually to the more people, more users across the organization, because the one thing which is really missing at this point of time, and when AI would definitely has to bring a lot of values, and this will be important for the organization, is that those process mining tools still require a bit of the knowledge, subject matter experts. They need to understand, it's easy to go through the happy path, right? And to have, but once you have the variance actually going through, it's becoming a bit more complicated. So how we can have for the business users actually the AI that will constantly kind of predict and flag the core issues, the root causes, and to propose the solutions. Hey, this company in Medlink, for example, have some process different. There are some situations happening on the daily basis based on the analysis which Celonis is doing, and that's why we should leverage actually the work which I think Celonis is working on right now.
I think we're going to pick up the glove indeed. So Thank you, thank you. Now over to Lars and again to David. So, how to leverage process intelligence with AI technology to actually get meaningful insights? What makes sense for you and performance improvement? So, we've been speaking about models and technology. What does it mean for you as a GBS leader?
Yeah, what does it mean for me, not only as a GBS leader, also as a leader of this organization at Fresenius Kabi? So one important lever is transparency. Given the setup of the company, what is very fragmented with various SAP systems all over, different company codes on the 5 different systems, not transparent. And this is not so easy to transform the company into a more integrated way, what is also part of the overall transformation program at Fresenius, if you do not have transparency. And so I don't go for it just for the purpose of applying a modern piece of software. So it needs to be connected with clear deliverables. And first is transparency, right? So if I would have a different setup, I would maybe think differently. But given this setup, so the fastest way to achieve transparency on how we are running the processes, where's the improvements, where's the differences, this of course to read in the data, and this is why Celonis is a perfect fit for this situation. And but that's also the ultimate deliverable we can achieve, so that we get the analytics and that we get the results of how are the data point in our systems, how is it structured, and important to go beyond in terms of deriving the right actions, identifying the right levers, and to start into the change and to really identify and work out on measures where to improve, because just with the transparency there is no improvement. You need to go beyond.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. In the end, it counts. Show me the money. We want to see the benefit, not just the visualizations. So, Sergio, in terms of managing the technology, how would you go about widening the usage, democratizing the democratizing technology, embedding it with people in their daily working life? So, how can we expand to other areas and embed it into their way of working?
Indeed, the way we should see technologies as capabilities, not as tooling. So it's all about creating the capability in the organization to really bring it to the next level, to turn it into an engine that is constantly looking for opportunities to improve processes. So it comes very much related to operational excellence thinking, of culture of continuous improvement. So a very feasible approach around technology adoption is to make a parallel with the operational excellence world is the equivalent of Six Sigma's programs, where you have yellow belts, green belts. You can create ambassador programs, bot squads that start creating citizen development, digital literacy across, and through that, you support innovation, experimentation, and then we start building on those opportunities, having the opportunities being identified very close to the point of impact, instead of a central organization that will have an oversight across the world and you just identify, okay, from 300 processes around order creation, 190 deviated from a golden standard because you look globally at such high level that never makes sense. So really creating this capability in the close to the point of impact, bring it to the next level. So lots of investments on digital literacy and capability for innovation in the sense of experimentation, having accessible tools that require no-code, low-code platforms for people to develop.
And Lars, anything to add to what Sergio just mentioned?
No, it's all agree. So it's a different perspectives on the same things, but obviously everybody sees certain advantages to invest into Celonis, what is of course not the cheapest investment you can do in your business life.
Yeah. Thank you. So, Eligiusz, while we were preparing, you mentioned a couple of very specific cases that you were really proud of, that you were really where you applied this technology in a very specific way in Lufthansa. Could you explain us a bit what it is, why it actually why you actually picked that up and what it is delivering to you now.
Sure, happy to share. So my main area of expertise is accounts payable. That's why the topic will be linked with this area of finance. So, of course, in accounts payable, we are still struggling with manual transactions, manual processing of incoming invoices, even though in many organizations we are trying to push towards the purchase orders with no PO, no pay policies and projects, but to a certain extent, we will never get as high with purchase orders as we would like to be. Especially in our organization, we have a lot of services and a lot of invoices which are not really, or commodities which are not really fitting to the purchase order process. That's why we need to address as well the classical invoices without purchase orders. And here we have our workflow provider giving us quite a nice solution based on artificial intelligence, reading the content of the invoice and matching it with the historical data concerning accounting attributes. And then based on the learning, the system can predict for the new cases, write GL cost account, write cost center, like description on the document and so on and so forth. Of course, it is not so easy that we just turn it on and get immediate effect. In our system, we need to be really well prepared to such a journey. And it is a journey because it takes really a while till we are having our systems ready, till we really understand why we have still blockers which are not allowing the full automation. Here, process mining comes into place as we really analyzed the big data from all our suppliers, their behaviors, so how many suppliers we do have with one-line item postings, for how many suppliers we are applying the changes, why, or maybe there are suppliers or the invoices which we are not applying the changes at all. So these ones are immediate candidates for automation. So we are making this really deep dives on the big data, having the insights into our process flow, into the changes for each and every document to understand why do we manipulate also the documents. Even the automated documents might be manipulated after the final push to SAP, meaning changing payment methods, changing payment terms. This gives us the opportunity to really catch the touches of the documents and eliminate this rework. So working it together with our workflow provider plus process mining, we are quite confident that we can really boost the automation further on. Even though we are on the early stage now, we would like to really benefit from this combo approach to get the automation ratio for our invoices without purchase order to the higher level.
So companies like ours and the companies represented here at this conference, we don't make money by doing one thing right or one thing right once. We're actually good at repeating it, repeatability. So at one point, we need to get it out of the piloting phase into scaling into the sizes of our company. So I would like to go into the key steps and the key challenges. What are your experiences? What are your plans? So I'd like to hand that question over to David and then to Sergio. So David, your plans, your key challenges, what are you seeing?
Thank you. So the journey I a little bit mentioned, right? You know, I mean, the start was a little bit slower actually at the Knorr-Bremse, but once we had the key talent in place, so we focused really on the low-hanging fruit, which was accounts payable for us. Why accounts payable? Because at that point of time, the accounts payable was mostly consolidated in the Liberate's Business Services Center. So we kind of literally become the more owners of the process. And this helped us through the data validation to kind of start identifying the root causes. So it has been already mentioned, right? You know, we found, you know, the different payment terms, for example, you know, so that triggered the opportunity to focus on the master data. On the top of that, what we have institutionalized, since the organization is relatively heterogeneous. So what we do, we're working closely with the individual plant CFOs and the managers, general managers in those locations, right? To kind of point out that those are the problematic vendors. Actually, if we would change some of those problematic vendors, maybe we would be able to achieve the longer payment term, for example, right? You know, that's one of the examples. One example as a practical one, speaking about Austria, we have massively increased the skontos, as German says, right? You know, so the discount, so going from the in 2022, from the 40-50% of realization of the discounts on the payment invoices, now we are reaching constantly 90% skonto realization. Overall, not an easy process, okay? One of the biggest challenge which I'm facing right now within the company is that how the company is currently structured. The company is structured based on the individual functions. So there is an accounting, there is indirect purchasing, there is direct purchasing, right? You know, and more we see in Celonis that it's literally an end-to-end process. And until we will change something in the purchasing, actually, then the invoice processing couldn't be actually improved, right, on that point of time. So that would be the step forward for us, how we can actually work more closely together on the end-to-end process to identify the benefits across the end-to-end process. Yeah. One of the other challenge which I'd like to mention, and that's something from my mind, actually, from my heart overall, right? You know, I'm a true believer on the data democratization and the transparency on the data, as Lars has mentioned, okay? Nevertheless, some stakeholders might have it different, you know, as we have heard today morning, that data is the new gold. Mm-hmm. And that comes really to the culture of the organization, you know, why we would be sit actually on that piece of the data, you know, how to make sure, you know, actually the data is used widely. Because I think that would be also an enabler for the wild implementation of the artificial intelligence, because then actually the copilots, you know, on the other tools and actually work together in order to give the higher benefits to the organization.
Thank you. Sergio.
I would add with, let's say, the challenge of non-digital native companies, because the central challenge here for companies like Philips, been over 100 years, several layers of technology, M&As, investments done in technology for specific reasons that ended up with highly customized environments, completely fragmented IT landscape. These affect the time to value of any technology initiative. Because when we start with process mining, let's get an example. 1 year of invoices in a market like North America for Philips shavers. That can take months to evaluate and understand the business rules in the lists of tables and put the proper business logic on top of the technology and the existing database to start really doing the analysis of the content and from there get business insights. So choosing the right technology and choosing the right approach to deployment is critical so we can reduce the time to value and start doing the conversion from, okay, we are working on an IT environment where we are connecting, making sense from a business perspective of data and bits into valuable insights that will help day-to-day operation. So moving through this chain is critical. And for such a thing to happen, building on the previous point of democratizing technology, we have to put it close to the point of impact. So it assists day-to-day management of processes and key decisions instead of being a sporadic or once-in-a-time analysis of, okay, 1 year of your transactions, how many times your customers didn't pay properly or applied discounts that you can go and start the negotiations. If you can bring this capability close to the event, then you can on the spot identify and address, making this part of the process not about mining, it's about managing in the end. So this is the critical learning and steps that have to be taken, especially in this such environment as we have like in Philips of very complex IT landscapes.
Yeah. Thank you. Before we go over to the last question, I will expect you to come with some questions. So beware, be careful. Lars, we've spoken about process, we've spoken about embedding and about performance. How about human? How about humans? How are we augmenting human capabilities using AI in order to improve process? How are we making them supermen and superwomen?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So what I'm not considering is that I go for the technology without thinking about how I make the best use out of it, right? And so we are all aware that it makes lots of sense to invest into this platform technology, what is beyond an ERP. So that makes lots of sense because it is promising. But it also means that you need to invest in certain capabilities in your company, right? So if you don't have the experts who have really deep knowledge about the software, it's very difficult to really use it in a broader scale and to get the best benefit to the company, right? And this is why we invested in two areas. First, invested into a center of excellence for Celonis and for other platforms that we are running. So we have decided on our map. It's completed, and we need to have the certain capabilities, expert knowledge, experience from outside to really help us to leverage this. And secondly, we need to address it to a as broad as possible user group. And this is also very, very important, but not so easy, right? So that means bring it not only to the GPS people, not only to the finance people, bring it across the organization wherever we can get any advantage out of creating this transparency, reading on the systems, how we are running the processes. We should address this, and as a consequence, this means we need to manage to bring this type of software, to bring this way of working into a very, very broad group across all functions, across all businesses, all segments, all regions. And this is our journey here.
And make all of the staff digital ninjas and allow them to do citizen development. Yeah, would be great indeed. Yeah. So I've told you, and now I'm turning over to you. So from the group, from the audience, who would like to raise a first question to my dear panel members? Anyone? Anywhere? Jackie, thank you. Yes.
Hopefully, I see I'll talk long enough. We heard this morning that it's important to be provocative. So I want to ask the panel, what has been the single hardest thing? Because you've been brilliant at the specifics. What is the nasty, gnarly thing we have to solve for in order to make all of this happen? Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie.
Wow.
So who dares to take up that glove? What's the nastiest thing that you need to solve?
The nasty thing that you need to solve is always overcome resistance.
Yeah.
Right. So it independent if it's good or not so good. So people don't want something that they are not used to, and some don't want to just explore a new solution. So I think that it requires some change management, communications, explanations, and really, also good communications by user groups to explain what is the benefit in the company. So it's the easiest way to overcome resistance is to explain more in a way that you're addressing the particular user groups and explain according to their requirements, according to their understandings.
Yeah.
Anyone else to add? Any nasty things to solve?
I mean, maybe I will add,
David.
right, on this one, which is Lars mentioned, right? I completely agree with him. How to sell it. That's for me, how to make sure that the businesses understand that, right? And that's why for me, actually, the Celonis, in process mining to use AI is the must actually for the country where I'm living, because I'm asking myself a question, what is the future of the Central Europe in the business services, with all the actually global changes, right, which are happening. My cost in the center over the course of the 5 years has grown by 26%, because of the inflation, right, So I think for me, that's the only chance how we will start demonstrating the bigger values, because the typical old transactional work is actually not a value proposition. It's not the selling point. So that's why, how to make sure that we will deploy such tools as Celonis is the right approach for the company.
Okay, thank you. Then one last question.
There
you go. Kai, thank you. There's a mic coming. Thank you very much.
I appreciate the fact that Celonis is something like gold standard in process mining, and proudly remember we got a Siemens GBS customer #1 because we were the very first industrial customer after Bayerischer Rundfunk.
I know.
And it worked out well. But we were always very heavy on analysis. And the first deliverable, as Lars said, was transparency. You scored very high. But we in Siemens were rather slow or bad in turning that into action. And I know that you entered the field of action mining. And what I would be interested in, and maybe I listened not well enough, in how far do you see AI a game changer for action mining? So does process mining automatically leads to mass actions automated?
Yeah, maybe I will take that question. Thank you. So indeed, based on our experience, based on what we see happening, so we see delays, we see rework, we see missing things. Myself, in my oil and gas background, we see that supply chains are slow. We see that they missed the boat off to the production platform out at sea. We see that happening. We see that. We also see the actions that happened 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps before, because that's where you're going to solve it. Otherwise, you're going to be solving things on the back foot. So indeed, action mining, maybe I'll go and patent action mining, but action mining indeed 2, 3, 4 processes, steps before, to make sure that it just doesn't happen in the first place. And that is indeed one of the capabilities. It will identify you if you push this lever, if you improve that, that will reduce your payment on time, or you missed supply chains, you're missing your boat to your production platform, your delay in your production, or in your less adherence or reduction in adherence to maintenance schedules. So that is indeed one of the areas that we are currently developing in our tool set. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for being our audience today. Thank you very much for your questions at the end. Thank you I would like to give a very warm applause to our dear panel. And looking forward to see you at the bar somewhere. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.